Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the committee's efforts here to focus on, as this committee hearing is titled, The Great Power Competition in Africa. I must say, disappointed that U.S. AID is not included in this hearing. They are a major donor of humanitarian aid in Africa that includes food assistance, health care, support for refugees, and internally displaced persons. And when you talk about trying to utilize all the diplomatic tools in our diplomatic toolbox, it seems to me that when we talk about America using its resources in this great competition in Africa, as well as with our allies, that they should have been a part of this hearing. Having said that, let me, a couple with limited time, Sudan, as Representative Meeks indicated, is a disaster at this point in time. I was there over a dozen years with a group of members of Congress. We were in Al-Fashir. We went down to Jubi. Sadly, things have gone from bad to worse. What would you say in your opening comments in response to our efforts with our allies? Are we trying to put together some sort of a plan to deal with not only the humanitarian crisis that's in Sudan, but all the other facets that are part of the horrific efforts or the challenges that are going on there?
So, Congressman, thank you. First, we remain the largest humanitarian donor, as you may know, to the response in Sudan. Our colleagues at USAID and other parts of the government work closely with other donors and with the UN to understand where the need is greatest.
But do we have a plan to deal with not only the triaging of, to your point, but trying to figure out how we can to end the civil war and to try to figure out how we can move forward?
Yes, we're engaged in an intensive diplomatic effort now to build off of the agreement.
Working not only with our allies, but with our African partners who are responsible in that area?
Including the African Union chair and a number of the surrounding neighbors who have influence to some degree over the combatants.
Well, this is critical. I'd like to know more about that, but let me move on. The Belt and Road Initiative that China is, and we know China's policy toward Africa is dominated by minerals and energy. But in your analysis, these summit agreements that China has reached with Africa, how ironclad, and what do you think the longer-term influence is a part of those agreements? I mean, I think a lot of these African nations are wearing and understanding that they come with incredible strings attached. And a lot of these Chinese companies are obviously very corrupt.
So I don't think it's an accident that the top line number out of this recent meeting in China is very similar to our announced support at the African Leaders Summit of $55 billion. Obviously, big difference between our support and the way we invest as opposed to China making $50 billion in predatory lending available on the continent. I think what we're seeing as we get deeper into the Belt and Road being implemented is many more tales of buyer's remorse and a higher degree of caution on the part of governments who may be offered a certain amount of lending from China. Given the examples under which China is deeply resistant to changing loan terms or extending repayment terms, as we saw in Sri Lanka.
Do you sense an imbalance taking place? Of course, France is one of our allies, but with France's changing participation and Russia's engagement, obviously Russia is an adversary of the United States, and they certainly will provoke as much havoc as they possibly can. How do you see that playing into the current challenges we face?
It's a substantial challenge on the continent to the extent that Russia is opportunistic and predatory, and they're seeking largely to distract us from key security challenges elsewhere and strip mine revenue to underwrite the regime back in Moscow. But it's not taking us off the core elements that we focus on the continent, and increasingly governments on the continent see that we offer a better deal.
More to be discussed further, Mr. Chairman. My time's expired. Thank you very much.